My wife and son are out of the house. My girls are sleeping, so I figured I'd film a quick video. This is, as the title card would suggest, a Beretta ARX100. I've had this rifle since December 2018, I guess. But it's not a rifle you hear an awful lot about, and perhaps with good reason. First of all, this is a rifle very much in the same, trying to be in the same category, I guess you would say, as the FN Scar, the HKG36, the CZ Bren, the Bushmaster Remington ACR, a number of those sort of, we can think of them as third generation assault rifles. They feature lots of plastic, aluminum Picatinny rails, a great degree of ambidexterity, folding and collapsing stocks, and oftentimes quick change barrels, all of which this has. I remember when this rifle was first debuted in America, which was 2014. Beretta was going to have a street market value of $1,300, they said. And they were promising 7.62 and 5.45 and possibly 6.8 millimeter caliber conversions and all that sort of thing. And just like with every other modular assault rifle, it never really came to pass. Beretta seemed even less interested in maintaining this platform than CZ seemed in maintaining the Bren. This is, however, the only one of these so-called modular assault rifles that I've owned. It's the cheapest of them, or it was. This one I was actually able to buy for $800 out the door, the night before Christmas on 2018. This was the last one they had in stock, and this was one of the last. For a long time, Academy Sports carried these. This was one of the last ones, probably in any of the academies in my area. But for $800, I feel like it's a pretty good buy. For $1,300, well, as you can see from the change in venue, my wife and son came home, and my boy woke up the girls. So I'm going to try to continue here. At any rate, as I was saying, Beretta initially was going to offer this at $1,300, which was a pretty good value, actually. It was quite a bit below the Scar or even the Bren. But then, in all their infinite wisdom, they jacked the price up to $1,900 right after introduction. And nobody was buying these things at $1,900. And I would say with good reason. It's just not $1,900 worth of white rifle. $800 like I got it, and like they were selling for a while at Academy Sports. It's actually a very good rifle. A very good deal. But, so that's a little bit about the pricing. I'm not 100% sure if these are even being made anymore. When I bought this, there was talk that they were being discontinued, and you ceased seeing them for a while. They had been fairly ubiquitous on shelves. Since then, I know they've at least had a couple of runs. You see some flat dark earth ones and whatnot. But Beretta's always been very sort of haphazard and nonchalant about this rifle, which is unfortunate. It's, most people know, this is the civilian variant of the ARX100, which is the Italian service rifle. It's also been adopted by Romania and various special operations units in Egypt and Kazakhstan, and The 308 variant, the RX200, has had some interest in Brazil in replacing the FAL. So it's a not an uncommon rifle worldwide. I mean, it's had some success, but in the American market, Beretta's just never been willing to invest the marketing or development or logical pricing strategy to make it a success. It would have been huge if they had actually offered the caliber conversions they promised, but they didn't. So we were left with a rifle that just wasn't very compelling. For me, I had always wanted a G36, and this is sort of, in my opinion, the G36 I have at home. Short stroke gas piston, ambidextrous. I would say European built, but this one is the ARX100 is actually built in America. This one is marked in Apopkeek, Maryland. So, the rifle comes with, obviously this monolithic upper Picatinny rail, which was part of its initial teething problems. Originally, it was secured with there's two torque spit screws that secured it, and this back portion was wiggly. When people first discovered that, it was a big hullabaloo. Then Beretta offered this roll pin as an upgrade, and this one came with a roll pin from the factory. It works. It's not wiggly, at least not by hand, but it's still, it seems a little bit of a, jerry-rigging it. As I discuss this rifle, there's going to be an awful lot of shortcomings that I mentioned. This should in no way be taken as me hating the rifle. I love it. There's a reason I still have this, but I no longer have a Steyr AUG. This rifle has, I both like as a design, and I also like it for sentimental reasons. But I'm certainly not blind to its shortcomings. Another shortcoming that people immediately recognized was there's no way to change this pistol grip. It has what, at least superficially, it resembles an M16A2 pistol grip. I will say this, though, when you actually hold it in the hand, it is far more comfortable than any M16A2 I've ever held. First of all, I think the A2 pistol grip in general does not get the credit it deserves. I like having this finger hump here because it helps you really lock in for a high grip. But this particular one is more ovular in cross section, and it's just I would say it's a step up from the M16s and M4s we get in the military here. But you can't change it, and a lot of Americans feel like you ought to be able to change your pistol grip. So that's considered a downside. To me, it's a non-issue, but to some people it is. There are much bigger complaints about this rifle I have. For example, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sling mounting positions. All of them are kind of terrible. The rifle shipped with a rather cheap, I think it was made by Voodoo Tactical, 2-point sling. Unfortunately, I lost it. But these loops are thin enough you really can't put most slings on them. You see this Magpul sling that I use, I had to secure with a 550 cord, and that's about all you can do. And then I added a rail-mounted sling adapter up there for a paraclip. That's just how it is. And I don't even understand the point of this front sling loop. It gets in the way of the gas adjustment, and also interferes a little bit with front sight. So it's just kind of there. If you mount a light on this side Picatinny rail, which is the most natural point to mount a weapon light, then your sling winds up obscuring it. So this is not really usable for much of anything, in my opinion. The rifle ships with an A2 bird cage flash hider, which is good. You know, nothing great, nothing special, but good. Has a pencil weight cold hammer forged chrome line barrel, 1-in-7 twist. It is chambered in 5.56 NATO and not 223. I think in some markets that ban military cartridges, quote unquote, they chambered in 223 as a workaround, or in 222 Remington perhaps. But at least here in America, it's 5.56 NATO, just like it ought to be. The big trick that the ARX is known for is this is the most ambidextrous rifle in existence. You can change the ejection port, the side of the ejection. You can actuate all the controls on either side. It's got mirrored sling mounts, and the only thing that's not ambidextrous is the folding buttstock. It folds to the right, like so. And it does, as for the buttstock, it does lock in place. It locks on the brass deflector. I guess it's not the brass deflector. It locks on this sort of shielding that's over the magazine catch. But I'm not a big fan of locking it there, because every time you unlock it, it kind of it feels like it's bad for the receiver. Kind of see it flex out there. The buttstock. It has, I want to say, 4 positions. I don't normally adjust it. Let's see. Which, that might be good for body armor, but it's really too short for anybody. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so just 3 positions, I guess. Even at its furthest extended point, it's fairly short. It's about like an AK when you have it at this length. Doable, but it's certainly not, it's certainly a little bit on the short side. You see there's a fair amount on the buttstock itself is straight, but it has a fair, it's below the rail height by a fair margin. So when you're looking down it, it has a fairly high axis of the optic and sighting plane versus the buttstock. That was seen as a big downside when this was first released on American soil. And you did have people that would make little cheek risers out of Kydex or other things. I had one of the Kydex ones myself, which it never really seemed to work out right, so I wound up just ditching it. But of course, nowadays, the big trend is having super high mounted optics, even on ARs. So in that, if you want a heads-up sighting position, this fits the bill right out of the box. All you need to do is put on regular AR height sights, and you'll be good to go. Everything I do is stream of consciousness, so if you're looking, if I seem to be jumping around, I apologize. The buttstock itself, like most of the rest of the rifle, is made of plastic, including this hinge. The hinge, I've not heard of these failing, but it does not strike me as being especially durable. I would imagine if I was an Italian soldier, I wouldn't be doing too much butt stroking or using it to support my body as I dove into the prone position, because there's a good chance that would fail, I think. All the rifles, interestingly, come from the factory set up for... this is actually a cover, and underneath is a rail for the Italian grenade launcher, which the nomenclature escapes me at the moment. I can't pry that off without removing this hand stop, so I'm not going to even try. Just take my word for it. It's a rail that's not really usable. for much of anything in America, but it's originally meant for a grenade launcher. There's also a short piece of Picatinny rail here where I've got the hand stop. I actually use that kind of as a, I don't use that to keep my hand from sliding forward. I use that as something to pull back on when I'm firing. But as you may recognize, this comes from a CZ Scorpion originally. You can remove this rail cover and add this. Beretta used to sell this. I don't know if they still do. But it's a Picatinny adapter. It simply slides over the grenade rail and makes a continuous 1913 rail at the bottom. I played around with it some. I didn't like how it looked. I didn't like how it felt. And whether I was using a vertical foregrip or an angled foregrip, it just felt weird. This is already a very tall rifle in the forend, and that just makes it taller. When you're holding it with this rail cover, which is how it's shipped from the factory, it's actually not bad. I've heard it compared to an AK forend, and I can see where you go there, where you get that. It's not exactly AK-like, but it's similar. Remove that for now. The rifle shipped with its own iron sights, or polymer sights, as the case may be. They folded, the front folded this way and the rear folded this way to maximize the sight radius. But they had an extremely high height. Even within an AR height optic, it obscured most all of the sight. They didn't co-witness. It was actually above the dot height. And they also were fairly bulky. They had a rotating wheel on the rear sight, which was meant to have different range graduations, which is neat. But the whole thing was just a little bit ridiculous. So I put on regular AR sights, Ruger front, and a Magpul Imbus rear. They work fine, and I think they're better sights than the factories. On the factory, on the Italian ARXs, those sights, those factory-style sights, actually seem to be recessed beneath the top rail, so it would line up more with an M16 height optic. That makes sense, but on this monolithic rail, they're too big. That's the controls. Everything is ambidextrous, yet nothing is particularly well designed, I would say. The magazine catch is a rather small button here. It reminds me a little bit of a 3rd gen Glock, which is acceptable, but I would prefer something more sized like an M16 or a Galil or something like that. The selector lever is clearly inspired by the M16 AR-15 selector lever, but it's stiffer, and you also have less leverage on the lever. I don't know if they ever... I think they changed them on later ones, but on this, it seems to be hard plastic. Either way, it just doesn't feel quite as confidence-inspiring as metal would be. It is, as you can see, marked 1 and safe. And on the full autos, it would have some other, infinity or 30, perhaps. I don't know. The best control we have is the, let's see. I really need to get some kind of a tripod, because doing this one-handed is not easy. The best of the controls, in my opinion, is the bolt hold open, bolt release. That's this, it's ambidextrous, and it's here on the trigger guard. To lock it back, you simply press the hold open up, and to let the bolt slide forward, you just push it down. I'll demonstrate. That's not necessarily unique to this design, but I'd say that is the best of the controls. You also have this button down here. You also have this button down here, which is another bolt hold open activator, but I'm not really sure what the point of that is. I think people were claiming that that was a nod to the AK, so that it would be more familiar to people that run AKs, but there's nothing. I mean, yes, it's roughly in the same position as an AK mag catch is, but it doesn't correspond to any operation you would do on an AK. All it does is it allows you to lock the bolt open. It doesn't even release it. So, in my opinion, this control is pointless. The charging handle. First, this is an aftermarket cover. I mean, it was sold by Beretta, but this you had to order this separately. It was, I keep on dropping. It was $12 on the Beretta store when I got it, and it is well worth the money. Because how the rifle shipped from the factory is with just this rather irregularly shaped metallic charging handle. It's short, doesn't give you an awful lot of leverage, and you really have a tendency to bust your knuckles on the brass deflector. It's also has some sharp corners. It was not designed with user comfort or leverage in mind. Adding this entirely changes the feel. You know, it's just got a little spring in there that loops over this triangular portion here. And press it on. When you add it there, it's actually a very good charging handle. The bolt itself is the smoothest cycling that I have ever felt on any rifle. So it has that going for it. But let's take this off again. One of the main tricks of this, going towards its ambidexterity, is you can change the side of the bolt handle. You can do that without disassembling the rifle. So you pull it here to sort of this disassembly notch. This is going to be really difficult left-handed. Let's see. So you pull it back here to this notch here. You pull it out, and you rotate it forward and through. And back in over there. And now you have it set up right-handed. So you can either, this would be good for left-handers or people that are just more used to AKs or other firearms with a charging handle on this side. I will also disassemble it really quick. One moment. This is one of those rifles that really likes to bite you when you're trying to disassemble it. There's all sorts of ways to pinch yourself and or mash your thumb, which is what just happened to me. This is the lower receiver. This is not the serialized part on this firearm. Houses the trigger, which, let's see if I think I can fire it. Yes. Fire control unit is mostly polymer, though it has this steel surface here where the hammer actually strikes on the firing pin. I'll describe the trigger in a little bit more detail later. Once you get the lower receiver off, you pull the bolt back to that disassembly notch and rotate it to its middle position so that it's facing towards the chamber. And then you pull the whole thing out like this. The bolt is very much a AR-15 styled, or perhaps AR-18, though it's not really a direct copy of either. Also has some AK influence, interestingly. But the way it cams in and out, I'd say is more like an AK bolt than any of the stoner bolts. It has dual extractors, but that's not necessarily really a fail-safe, because you have to, I'm not sure that you could necessarily rely on one if the other fails. The dual extractors are more to allow you to change the ejection side than anything else. Let's remove this. Here we have the recoil spring, which I would say is vaguely AK-like, though it's quite a bit different as well. And let's see if we can show the bolt carrier. Here's how that charging handle swings. Really, you know what this reminds me of? A little bit when you look at it from this angle. It reminds me of the G36, except on the G36 it would be outside of the receiver and would sit up here, and it would be spring-loaded. Then we've got one more thing to disassemble. You know, there's a shot inside the receiver, and that is the barrel. It has these two takedown levers here. It should return to 0, though I don't normally test it, but I will for you guys. You pull down on them like you would on a Glock, and pull this forward. And here we have the barrel and gas system. It is a short-stroke piston, or at least it's considered a short-stroke piston. It's obviously not attached to the bolt carrier, but Beretta calls this a constant contact piston. So I guess this piston head stays in contact with the bolt carrier, though it's not actually attached. So it's a little bit of a unique system. It's not the ubiquitous AR-18 system that most of the modern rifles use. Nor is it an AK system. I'm not aware of anybody else that uses something quite like this. It has a 2-position gas plug here. It's marked N and S, which I don't remember what the manual says, but I know there has been some discussion over it. I believe N is normal and S is suppressed, but don't quote me on that. I could have that entirely backwards. Here we have the barrel extension. Should look very similar to anyone who's ever had any experience with an M4 carbine. Has extended feed ramps, sort of like an M4. Let's see here. Barrel's probably not terribly clean, but it's a pretty light profile barrel. Though, as you see here, it is a little bit thicker under the handguard than it is out front. If anything, that makes more sense than the government profile on M4s and M16A2s. Now I'll put it back together. I'll fast forward through this part because, of course, YouTube doesn't like anything that they might consider gunsmithing. Okay. One thing to keep in mind is this rifle can be assembled incorrectly. I just put it together with the recoil spring upside down, and it was, you couldn't really retract the bolt. You could only retract the bolt to about right here. So, add to the list of quirks, you can disassemble it incorrectly. It does, like I said, it likes to bite your thumb and pinch it every time you disassemble it, so that's an irritation as well. Let's go over my list of grievances with the rifle. Stiff safety selector. It's doable, but it could be better. Nonsensical bolt hold open on the bottom. It's not really a gripe, but it's just pointless. Small, it is ambidextrous, but it's small magazine catch. As it comes from the factory, short, sharp bolt handle that doesn't give you much leverage and is guaranteed to bust your knuckles. That can be easily remedied with this add-on piece, assuming you can find one. And weird tall sights. That's easy enough to replace, but you know, why not just leave the sights off entirely if they're going to give you throwaway sights? And a buttstock that is neither particularly strong nor quite long enough for a lot of people. You know, I personally prefer the M16A1 length to the AK length, but AK is fine as well. All this gives you a rifle that is fairly lightweight. I mean, there will be any number of people that will say, my AR-15 build is lighter than that, and I'm sure it is. This comes out to about 7 pounds, I think, loaded, as you see it. Or 7 pounds unloaded, as you see it here. Is the juice worth the squeeze? It's a piston-operated, clean-running, ambidextrous rifle. And let's not forget the odd sling points. But other than that, I mean, this rifle could have been absolutely fantastic. One thing, the elephant in the room I haven't mentioned while I'm talking about gripes, the trigger. It's very heavy. It's probably close to 10 pounds, but it is extremely crisp. It's a single-stage unit, has a plasticky but crisp feel that's rather heavy. Many people hate that. I don't love it. We're left with a rifle that overall, I would say this is like 85 to 90% awesome, and the other 10% was just Beretta didn't put in the effort to really refine it. There's no excuse why they could not have given us better sling points, you know. This design here would have been adequate if it was just a little bit larger. You know, make it big enough to accept a normal sling instead of, 550 cord or a ribbon. This roll pin, once they added it, it was fine, but why was that not added out of the gate? Charging handle. They came up with an excellent solution to the bad charging handle, but that really should not have been sold separately. That should have been included with the rifle. There's no excuse for that, other than just them being cheap. The stock, I would prefer to see a little bit longer stock. And this hinge, it may just be my perception, but it could use a little bit beefing. Other than that, it's a pretty good rifle. I know I sound like, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play? But it's an enjoyable rifle to shoot. It's a little bit punchy. I attribute that to the gas system and the lightweight. It definitely recoils more than an AR-15. It's similar to a Steyr AUG, if you've ever fired one of those. Accuracy is acceptable. It's going to be less accurate than an AR-15, but it's, probably 3.5 MOA if I had to guess. All of this leaves you with a rifle where you just say, why? Why would you get this over an AR-15? Well, maybe you're a left-handed person, in which case this will definitely be easier for you to adapt to. You can adapt the rifle to you instead of you adapting to the rifle. Or perhaps you're like me and you just like collecting different unusual style of firearms. It's an interesting design. It's a pleasant rifle to shoot. It just really could have benefited from more refinement. I guess that's my summary on the matter. I don't think we're going to get more refinement from Beretta, though. Beretta releases these in small batches periodically, and while they initially were hyping it up back in 2014, 2015, it seems like they quickly realized that they weren't going to be able to get $1,900 for this, and when that happened, they just kind of lost interest. So, hope you enjoyed it. You will probably be seeing more of this rifle in the future.